next unicorn. As a part of the series, we are going to have the participation of global unicorns from US, EU, Japan, Australia, Singapore, South Korea, and to share their journey towards the unicorn glory. Each session of this unicorn is focused around a talk on how a bootstrap startup could transform to a unicorn, followed by their mantra for success, their driving factors, and provide valuable insights for future unicorns. I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate Mr. Manoj Kohli and SoftBank for leading the Global Unicorn Series initiative. CIS Future Business Group comprises of brilliant young leaders of India's most successful new age businesses. It was officially announced on 3rd September by Honorable Minister Piyush Goyal, Minister of Commerce, Industry and Railways, Government of India. Young Indians is a movement for Indian youth to converge, lead, co-create and influence India's future. Formed in the year 2002, VIA has created a platform for young Indians to work towards realizing a dream of a developed nation. It has a growing inclusive membership with over 3,300 direct members in 53 chapters and 30,000 UA members who are students from colleges. Of impact projects and activities divided primarily into three areas: youth leadership, nation building, and thought leadership. VIA hopes to emerge as a premier youth Indian organization. It is my great pleasure and honor to introduce Mr. Manoj Kohli and Ms Falguni Nayar before we start the session. Mr. Kohli is the country head of SoftBank India Group International and is supporting over 20 portfolio companies of SoftBank and SoftBank Oyo, Snappy, etc. Government and public potential. Previously, Mr. Kohli was also CEO and Managing Director of Bharti Airtel, and his key contribution being built as number 3 telco in the world from 2 million to over 400 million customers. 1 year's experience is between manufacturing, telecom, and R&D. The Kohli has worked in US, Europe, China, Japan, and built businesses in 20 countries in Asia and Africa. He has been awarded as Telecom of the Year in 2000 by Media Trans Asia, Telecom Person of the Year in 2004, and Lifetime Achievement Award in 2020 by Voice and Data. He is a member of the Academic Council of Faculty of Management Studies and has been awarded the Best Alumni Award by Shriram College of Commerce, Delhi University. He is Distinguished Fellow of Asia Society Australia to build long-term trade and commerce partnership of both countries as well. He is also the Distinguished Fellow of Indian School of Business. He is on the Board of Directors of IIT Indore and Chairman of Board of Governors of Indian Institute of Technology Information Technologies, West Bengal. I would now like to introduce our very special guest for today, whom we are all very eager to hear from and to understand what has been her experience in this incredible journey, which is actually the dream of many young entrepreneurs who are here with us today. Ms. Falguni Nayar, after graduating from IIM Ahmedabad, started her career in counseling. After serving 18 years as a venture investor and helming several businesses with Kotak Mahindra, she announced her departure to pursue her dreams. She founded Nykka in the 2000 with a vision of building a multi-brand, omni-channel, beauty-focused retail business. By empowering customer choices and enabling brands to reach the breadth and depth of country, Naica has emerged as India's leading beauty retailer, playing a critical role in developing the beauty market in India. Today, heading a team of 1,800 Nykaites, Ms. Nayar has built the first organized beauty and lifestyle retail with a portfolio of 1,300 plus brands, including its own private label, available across online and 71 stores in India. Nykaa has ventured into new verticals like Nykaa Fashion, a fashion-first style curated fashion platform. She was awarded the Woman Ahead Award at the Economic Times Startup Awards 2017. In the last year alone, recognizing her contribution to the Indian beauty industry, she was awarded the Businesswoman of the Year at the Economic Times Award for Corporate Excellence in 2019. She was also listed as one of Asia's Power Businesswomen 2019 by Forbes Asia and named Business Person of the Year 2019 by Vogue India. Most recently, she was awarded EY Entrepreneur of the Year 2019 Startup Award by Ernst & Young. She is on the board companies including ACC, Dabur, Endurance Technologies, Kotak Securities, and Tata Technologies. We are extremely fortunate to have Ms. Falguni Nayar here with us today sharing her mantra for success. I would like to hand over to Mr. Cole and ask him to please take it forward.
Thank you, Ronak. Delighted to be with Falguni today. Falguni, this is really my privilege and pleasure that I'm inviting you and to share your aspirations, share your struggles with all the aspiring our young entrepreneurs in this country, especially women entrepreneurs who have to perforce run faster than others because frankly, they need much more encouragement from all of us. So today is a very special day and welcome to this session.
Thank you very much, Manoj. In fact, it's a pleasure to be here, and I'm delighted to be able to interact with so many young entrepreneurial Indians. So I'm really happy to be here today.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'll have a few questions which I thought I'll ask you, and I'll request you to be as candid because today all these youngsters who are online are really have many doubts, queries, questions in their mind, and if you are able to answer them, I'm telling you, you're going to help and make many more Falgunis in this country. Also, we'll have last 10-15 minutes of Q&A so that any audience questions can also be picked up. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, of course. I'm happy to be here.
Great. So let me start. I wanted to start at your childhood. What was your ambition in your childhood when you were in school? Did you ever think of becoming a CEO of a large business? Did the family background guide you towards it? Who were your idols in school and college who really built aspiration in you to do what you're doing today?
So I have to admit that I grew up reading stock prices and price earning multiples in pink papers to find that undervalued stock pick with my dad. And of course, my dad came from very simple beginnings. He came from Karachi during partition to India, and in fact started his career and journey as a Hindi teacher in a South Bombay school. And from there, he had courage to progress on to becoming a trader and later a manufacturer of ball bearings, very similar to what SKF bearings and all was selling at that time. And I think it was more his journey that really motivated me. It kind of told me that nothing can be out of bounds, and a spirit of can do is what was nurtured. And I think it is those early seeds that, as I look at my journey later, that motivated me. I have to say that I was one of the I was one of the elders in the family, from both sides. So I didn't have older cousins. I didn't have any guidance. But at the same time, in spite of that, I was very hung up about doing an MBA. So these are my first thoughts, loving stock market, loving MBA, very standard upbringing, but clearly no difference between a boy and a girl. I was never taught to not rein in my ambition or desire to do what I wanted. So a lot of freedom to pursue what I wanted.
No, that is fantastic, Falguni. Blessed to have such parents, blessed to have an environment of freedom. I think that's really fantastic, which I'm sure it helped you in the early days. Now, then you went to Ahmedabad, which of course is the leading school in India. How did that time shape you? And what are the learnings you had from Ahmedabad, which even today you are able to retain and utilize? And tell us something about your college days. Tell us, did you discover your strengths and passions in that time?
So, those days, if you know, Ahmedabad was filled with young engineers. Most of the students were engineers because they used to max the CAT exam compared to non-engineers. I was a non-engineer. Also, there were very few women. We were all of 9 women in a class of 150 plus. So I think these were the exceptions. But what I remember of those days is clear emphasis on case method of learning. And that really stayed with me for a while. I mean, for a long time. Basically, I felt that in the case method of learning, you solve for real situations in corporate histories through, a lot of debate and problem solving approach. And that method of learning made me a gave me a long lasting passion for what I call as management principles and using in real life, real life practice of management principles. And even today, I keep saying that what I really value today is ability to learn various aspects of management through real life practice, as a CEO or any senior position. So it made me very motivated and passionate towards lifelong learning of management principles. Of course, I graduated in finance at IIM because all of us were chasing those high paying finance jobs. But my real interest lied in understanding the consumer and consumer behavior and how to influence a customer. So it was after many years in finance, where almost 19 years I spent in finance doing stockbroking to institutional investors, and then moved on to doing investment banking, which I loved. I loved every minute of it. I told you I started as a young 11-year-old reading newspapers for price earning ratios. So I think that's something I really enjoyed. But I came of my own when I started Nykka to build a brand Nykka and to understand consumer and apply marketing and management principles to influence them to build a new category in India.
So that's not a normal path which you took, Falguni, from nearly 19, 20 years as a very very bright talent in an institution, working for an institution, investment banker, and then moving to entrepreneurship. So what made you, what encouraged you to make this switch? So this is a very, very vital switch you made, and many young people who are in good jobs, well-paying jobs, would like to do that now.
So two things. One is in my investment banking journey, I understood, and as a stockbroker also, I understood the value of building brands. And it is the brands who hold long-term value of a business. And I think I wanted to experience a journey of creating a brand and building a brand, obviously with an eventual goal to own a valuable business. But the route was through building brands. I also, as I used to specialize in IPOs, and as a specialist in IPO, I met a lot of promoters. I met a lot of entrepreneurs and promoters, and they had a clear vision and belief in their business, and that was something that impressed me. When they used to say they want to make a Disney-like studio in India, or they wanted to create a big port in Kandla. Most investors at that point, were kind of naysayers and didn't believe in the promoter's vision. But I was really impressed with the entrepreneurial vision to see that ahead of time and to want to build it and create something which created a lot of early stage value. And personally, I wanted to experience that journey. So at some point, I said, now I've done enough of professional jobs, and I wanted to create something and build an enterprise of my own from scratch. And that is an experience that I was chasing. So for me, it was easy. I was very determined to do this. And it was kind of easy because I really wanted to be that person on a mission to build this company and a brand. However, in spite of being so convinced, it almost took me 3 years to be able to leave. So even when you're totally convinced, I remember from 2009 to 2012, I kept finding very silly reasons for not quitting. And it took me almost 3 years to be able to gather courage and go and tell my boss that, look, I want to move on to build a beauty business. So, and I think, that a lot of, at that point, the debate was that, debate in my mind was, so, okay, I want to do this, but how big can it be? And will it be worth it? Will it be worth it compared to what I'm already doing and the value that I'm already creating? And I think at that point, I want to say that my daughter Advaita came in very nicely and shared a poem with me, which is called Ithaca. And I urge each of the entrepreneurs to read that poem called Ithaca. And it is a very popular poem, but it talks about how entrepreneurship is a journey, and the journey will be truly enjoyable, and there'll be a lot of learning. And finally, it's not the destination that matters, but it's the journey that matters and the experience that you gather. So with that kind of belief and conviction that the journey will be very valuable, I just jumped in, and I'm so glad I did.
That is fantastic. So that means your daughter introduced you to that clincher argument because you said you were hesitating for 2-3 years. I think that was a long time. And
Yeah.
obviously you are not that she clinched it for you. So finally, when you took the decision, tell us about 1 or 2 years, the first 1-2 years when you, I'm sure, had some struggle because when you say starting from scratch, it is really scratch compared to a good quality job which you were doing earlier.
Yeah, so leaving high salary, golden handcuffs of ESOP or plush offices that one was used to, and starting from a really scrappy office that I went to. I went to my dad's first office, which was they're called industrial galas in Mumbai. I don't know, you may not be aware, but they used to be there in 60s and 70s. And I started from, I mean, they continue to be around. So I started from one of those offices, and in spite of having a very comfortable home, I would go to this scrappy office with terrible bathroom, which a lot of my early employees would say they grow mushroom in the bathroom. So, but I was very clear that one has to have a startup culture. And if you get too comfortable in a startup, you'll never get to where you want to get to. So you have to have that spirit of, the spirit of a startup, which is that you have to make the ends meet and this thing has to work for you to be able to pay the salaries and for you to be able to move forward. So I think with a very clear, a very small budget in mind, I think my initial budget was only 5-6 crores for investing in my startup. I wanted to do it from our own resources and then raise investor money only once I had the, what I call as assumptions in place. Because otherwise investors will say you're putting all these blue sky assumptions. How do I believe them? So I actually did fund the business initially for 2.5 years from family resources. And it was done with as low a number as just about 10 to 12 crores. And, for that money to last for 2.5 years, it was really a scrappy execution in the beginning. But I'm glad we did that because that made us really do the right thing. It made us have the desire to come up with a business model that would work. It would work and it can move forward rather than build a palace and then worry that will it make sense.
Absolutely right. So tell me about the idea of Naica. What was your conviction behind this idea? Because you had a great conviction that this will succeed, consumers will accept it. Tell us about that conviction.
So if you ask me, like Nykka was not my first idea, but it was my third idea. So my first idea was, I'll just talk about a little bit about those so that you get a sense. But I wanted to do an Airbnb equivalent of business focused on weekly rentals of villas and holiday homes in India. And somehow I felt that Indian weather and the way India was and the way Indians took holidays in India was so limited that this model may not work. So I gave it up. The next idea that came to me was to do a Oyo style. I'm now using all these words only to make it easier for others to understand. Those were not the words in my mind that time. But an Oyo style branding of nursing homes in India. I saw that there were lots of nursing homes and people could not make out the quality of service they will get when they go into the nursing home. So Oyo style branding of nursing homes and giving them centralized purchases and knowledge and everything, centralized recruitment and add value and take a revenue at the top. So in fact, that business I was quite convinced about that was a really need in the country. But I was a bit hesitant to get involved with a nursing home business where you carry real responsibility for outcomes. And that kind of little bit scared me and I opted out, though I think it could have been a fantastic business and can still be a good business, but now I'm stuck with Nykka. And as far as Nykka is concerned, it was my third idea. And I think the whole idea was to be a multi-brand retailer for beauty. I was aware that beauty was a very early stage nascent business in India with a problem of a large country and a long tail inventory business, could not service Indian customers well. And I had seen that business in US and in Asia. And I felt that in India also that business can be grown with a lot of technology based input using e-commerce as an enabler. So I jumped into that. But even there were lots of naysayers who told me, if you're going into e-commerce, why beauty? Beauty has never succeeded. If you want to do e-commerce, do electronics, do fashion, but why beauty? But I was convinced that that'll work. Some of the early thoughts in my mind were that I know if I'm performing a ballet, I know I'm not in New York, but I used to pray to God that, hey, God, at least let me be in Mumbai at least, and let me not be in Timbuktu. Because I really wanted the customer to react and interact with Nykka and build, and really come in a positive way, because, I needed to create the market. I needed to create and build the industry which didn't exist.
No, that is a very strong conviction, and you did the right thing. Of course, both Airbnb and Oyo are also doing well. So that means all your three ideas were good ideas. So nothing wrong in any idea. Only thing is each idea has a gestation period, and one has to have patience for going through gestation. And recently, Airbnb listing at 100 billion value proves that your idea was right. So, and all these hospitals being standardized or potential to be standardized to a certain minimum quality and delivery, I think also is a great idea. So I think your ideas are, let me compliment you for the ideas. So coming back to Naica now, did your banking experience help you in the initial period of as an entrepreneur of Naica?
So, if I may say, I was an experienced manager, and I was good at finance, legal, negotiations, etc., etc. But I did not know beauty. I did not know retail. I did not know tech. I did not know digital marketing. So there was a lot I didn't know. But I do believe that, I do believe that if you want to do something with passion, you can learn. And actually, the world only teaches you what you need to do. And I do feel that, we did start out with, is the business's first principle. I used to observe how the business happens in real life, how is beauty sold in real life in stores. There was a lot of there's a lot of advice, being given to customers on what to buy. There was a lot of assortment and variety being made available. So we replicated all of that in the digital world, and we came up with an execution that was very unique. I think in those early days, people used to say, "Don't come in the way of customers checking out." The everybody in the industry was measuring how quickly you allow customers to check out. And we put content right in the middle of our homepage and our listing pages, right in the middle, saying, learn more about how to use the foundation. I think those were the kind of technical, the traditional technologists would have said this is a big mistake. But, we believed and we looked at the cohort and we saw that customer sometimes comes in like 30 times or 20 times in a month before they buy. And we allowed that to happen. So I think we built a business in a very unique way with our own understanding of the space and applying first principles. So I think that was a very big advantage. But as we moved forward, what really worked was that, being in finance and being a stockbroker and an investment banker, one had a very good feel for principles of unit economics, path to profitability, how to be prudent on value and respect the equity and what it means, and all that. My past experience on all that has been a big differentiator for Nykka and for Nykka's success, because we have created demand using first principles of choice and education and trust. Trust was another big thing we relied on. But then I've used all of my professional learnings of earlier years and built a business model that looks like a very traditional business model, even though it's a new age business.
Perfect. I think that's so you used all the insights, all the knowledge and experience of your past, of your father, in making the business successful. I think that is a great idea. Now, tell us about a couple of challenges which you faced in the first 2 years, 3 years of the business, and a couple of critical decisions which you took and which you had to take and which are paying off now.
So the first challenge was to build a scalable and a secure tech platform, and that could serve the complex consumer needs on how to shop, because we were really trying to replicate a physical model which was very complicated, and we had to make it available online. So these are difficult, and it needs a class team, and it also needs the right strategies and prioritization. So I think that is something we learned. If I may say so, we had a slow start on technology. I think first 2.5 years, I could not claim that technology was our strong piece, but we've learned over the years and we've built team over the years. And today I'm really proud that we have one of the very unique and A-class team that is serving all our needs. And we are not, we have built, we are an Indian company who has built technology in India with Indian talent. And when customers like and praise our platform in line with some of the best global platforms, we get a lot of pride in it. There's a lot to feel good about because there's no technology input that has come from a big global company, and still we have, and a lot of Indian companies have done that. But I think we are really proud that we have done that from scratch with an Indian-owned company and an Indian team that is making this happen and build a world-class platform. Secondly, was the operations and supply chain were an equal challenge in early days, and they remain, they remain the core of the heavy lifting that we do. And to be successful in this category, being inventory led, being able to service the customer with a very complex cart. Our customers buy anywhere between 5 to 20 items in a cart, and we try to send it to them in one package. They like it that we send it in one package instead of sending it in 20 package. That's why our reliance on inventory led model instead of a marketplace model. So that was the second big area where, again, first 1.5 years we struggled, but then we learned and we built the right team. And today I'm really proud of the team. From day one of the lockdown, my team has been in the warehouses servicing our customers, and we've not hesitated at all. I call them my frontline warriors who have really worked hard to, keep the business momentum in this lockdown. The third was structure of the company. I think India has made it very, very difficult in e-commerce to function with trying to not allow foreigners and whatever. So I think we had to make sure that our structure of the company for an inventory-led business needed to be funded with domestic money. And we made those tough choices and hard decisions to do that so that we could support an inventory-led business. And finally, all the softer aspect of trust, influence, and virality, they are very important too. And I think Naica has done that very well. There are no playbooks on those, but we got it right. And it's a very qualitative part of our business where the exact measurements are not available. And yet we did it well. So I think these were some of our key areas that we got right.
No, those decisions are big decisions. I think taking them right is so important for a long-term success. But also tell me, what advice will you give to Falguni of those days, maybe on few decisions which did not turn out to be right?
So one is definitely, I do feel that I wish I had a co-founder with a tech strength. If I were to do it again, I would first go and look for that CTO. I think I was too much of a banker with all my friends also being bankers. So I could not identify and spot a CTO who I should have partnered right up front. But I think having a co-founder who shares who shares the workload, who shares your ups and downs, and also comes in with a complementary strength is a very strong way to build a business. And while I did it alone, I do feel, of course, my daughter Advaita came in during very early stage of the business. So she is like a co-founder. And because she brought exact complementary strength to what, I brought to the table, again, that was a big help. But I think that is clearly something I would recommend, to have a co-founder who starts a business with you and is there to support you. And I think complementary strength is very important. I think, except for that, I think many other things that we did differently, I would not change it today. So another thing that we did differently was that we actually, we recruited a lot of young talent who was passionate about the business. We never selected for did they have the right experience. I think we didn't select for that. We selected for passion and good at their work, and we taught them the business our way at our company. Now things are different. We select the right person, the best person for the job. So it's changed a lot as Nykka has grown, but I don't think I would change that. The third thing that we did a little differently was that we really emphasize a lot on on data and analytics. And again, that's something that we wouldn't change at all. I think it's become a way of life. And I think that is the biggest advantage of today's tech company, that database decision making is the way to go. So from very early days, we started doing that every decision was made after understanding data rather than way of doing things. I don't think we had anybody who was saying, this is how I've always done this and this is how it has to be done. But I think these ended up being our strength rather than wanting to change it.
That is great. Also tell me now, from a small business, it's become a much larger business in the last few years. And how did you find and resolve the challenges of scaling up and this high growth trajectory which you already picked up in the last few years? Do you think this was done well, structured well, planned well? So tell us about a business growth scale up which you have achieved in the last 2-3 years.
So what I think we've done it well. We've scaled the business well. One of my biggest fear is to become a bureaucracy where there is a lot of information that everybody gets, but nobody thinks they have to come in on that and act on that. So in more recent times, we realized that there was a certain culture and values that were inherent in the firm, but as the organization grew, we needed to transcend it to all our people. And with that, we came up with a very good understanding of what was important to Nykka and tried to summarize that. So if I may say so, I think we have always been bold and very aggressive and ambitious in our growth. But when you say that you want to be bold and aggressive and that is not misunderstood, I mean, if it's misunderstood and it gets translated as growth at any cost, that would be terrible because then you're not following the compliance, you're not being good, you're not looking after your team and things like that. So we came up with a principle which says be bold but be good. And we said integrity is a very important part. We are very ambitious and we want to grow and and we want to do that and we want to continue to chase 50 to 100% growth irrespective of the scale. But we said being good and integrity. What I mean by being good is integrity is a very important part of that. Then similarly, we said that there should be we should be biased for action and we must not try to get perfect information. So you want to be that day one and you want to be entrepreneurial even in spite of growing. So what that means is that there is a bias for action. No one's waiting for that perfect information or perfect things to come together to move forward, but we continue to be very entrepreneurial and wanting to move forward. So a number of those things, but we also realize that, it has to be one Naica. So we really treasure this principle of one Naica. And we tell all our employees that no one can come in and weigh in based on only their perspective. And it has to be a one Naica perspective. And everything we do has to fit into that one Naica objective rather than it works for one, it works for tech team or it works for product team or brand management team. So I think, and then we also said it needs to be win-win, it needs to be win-win with all our partners, So I think we put in place a very clear, values and culture, and we communicated that, and we are trying to work towards that. And I think this helped us keep that same, startup hunger, startup this thing, but also, doing it right, not letting compliance slip, not letting today's consumer also holds you very responsible from a ESG perspective, so not letting those slip. So I think if you want to bring a holistic growth, you have to carry the whole team towards that way of decision making.
Those are very precious principles you injected in the early part, and I think sustainability of Nykka will be far greater than others who didn't do it. So I'm sure it'll make you a long-term winner. Also tell me, Falguni, that going from online to offline, how was that journey? And how did you do that? Which markets did you prioritize? Did your decisions of location serve you right? So how did that happen?
So I think when we did some, like I told you, we are very data oriented. So when we did research of our early customers, it became very evident that very few customers were online only or offline only, whereas bulk of the customers, 70% were in the middle, who also went into the store once in a while, but also bought online. So with that, we knew in our early days itself that we need to be omni-channel. However, first 3-4 years went in stabilizing the e-com platform, and our attention to our stores was limited. But about 4-5 years ago, we decided to press the pedal on our physical retail growth. And at the moment, we are at about 80 stores. To be honest with you, we discovered that, our brand had really got built out and customers wanted the physical store. And because we are an omni-channel company with a digital reach to our consumers, we get like 20 million unique customers every month, like 80 million visits from those customers, and many of them want to come into our stores. So as we started rolling out our stores, our success was much higher than the industry standard. Our footfalls, our sales per store was great. And then many of our brands, especially high price point brands like luxury and premium brands, do need a physical presence in store for customers to come and experience. So it's been a very positive experience. Even during lockdown, really it was impacted. However, by October, we are back to February level of business and we are growing from there. So I think this year the physical retail business will also have a positive growth on a year-on-year basis. So I think we are big believers in it and we'll continue, but it needs to be the right mix, not overdo. Like a lot of people treat physical retail as way to build the brand and one puts up a store whether it's working or no. Early investors asked me that, are you building stores for store profitability or for branding? And I said, no, every business we build will be for profitability in that business also. Of course, the profitability in physical retail will be little weaker than e-commerce because you have to have space, you have to have people. But I think it's a need that it's serving, and for that we are ready to spend a little extra. But it needs to be the right mix.
Absolutely right. So tell me, in the last 8-9 months, the consumer propensity to go for online, the comfort of small towns, villages, even housewives go for online transactions, online shopping, financial transactions is much higher than past. And it is said that in these 8-9 months, actually the journey of online has taken a leap of a decade nearly. So do you think that this decision of offline, which you took, which has been working, and I think it was right also, do you think that decision may change a bit based on the last 8-9 months of online propensity of the consumers?
Not really, because to be honest, what we were doing is from the beginning, we've treated our business as an omni-channel. So offline was a very important way to acquire luxury customers, and we actually in 85-90% of our customers go in our database. So from early days, like a year before the pandemic also, we were enrolling customers into our database. We were asking them the phone number and the email ID so that they are in our database. So we truly treat them as an omni-channel customer. Because finally, our online stores only have 70-80 brands, whereas an online platform is like as we call it, endless aisle. We have 1,000 brands, 1,200 brands. In the fashion, the same thing is happening. Even if we have stores, they will have like maybe 30 brands or 20 in fashion, even less. And whereas online, we'll have so many more brands. I think clearly the adoption of e-commerce has been better due to pandemic. And the cost of customer acquisition came down tremendously from 600 rupees to as low as 250 rupees. And now it's, of course, climbing back up, but it's still only at about 400 or 500 rupees because customers are more convinced to come in and buy. And I think in that sense, I think it's better times for e-commerce. I think for a long time, we were below potential. We could not achieve the kind of penetration one wanted. And we were still stuck in e-commerce at about 100 million customers buying, and those customers were buying more frequently. Their AOVs are going up. Our AOVs have gone up tremendously during this lockdown phase. It's gone up. And this is not like for 4 years before that, the AOVs were not going up. So clearly there is a big change in mindset and we are benefiting for it. But we will and will continue to be, we are a digital first company and we see physical retail as an enabler to meet that overall objective of servicing our customers better.
Yeah. No, that is the right mix for future. Digital first, but offline has to be profitable. I think that's a very good principle you followed, because offline is not only for branding. That is because digital branding is as good. So tell me about your core strength of Naica, core competence of Naica. What do you think is your anchor of the Naica as a business, or Naica as a brand?
So I think art of retailing, if I may say, is the way to put it. We really value that, and in an industry that always measures discounts, I think Naica has courage to say that we'll only do discount funding that brands give us. So if our brands are ready to give discount to our customers, of course we will pass it on, because finally we want to we are very customer centric and we do everything right for the customer. However, we've never considered giving discount from our pocket, and we've never considered discounting as a way to acquire a customer. So most of our customer acquisition happens through art of retailing, where we really challenge our teams to understand the customer need, and what does the customer want, and solve for those. And as a result, we measure things like what percentage of our sale is at full price, what percentage of our sale is of new launches, what percentage of our sale is of new products and trends. We focus a lot on trends. We also, and it came from my early days. I defined it as I'd rather sell the right color of the lipstick to the customer so that they're happy at full price than sell the wrong color of the lipstick to them at a discount. So I think we came from defining our businesses, giving customer what is best for them and helping them choose that best for them, irrespective of the price. And of course, if the brand is ready to, I mean, the entire discounting strategy comes from the brand, because brands also, like especially in the premium and luxury space, they don't like to discount too much, because then what is their brand worth? And then we focus a lot on authenticity and genuine product. We buy only directly from brands and their distributors, so that the customer has this huge trust that if it's coming from Nykka, it'll be genuine, not counterfeit. So every principle of our business, everything we did, and for that we did inventory led. So everything we did was to offer that genuine offering to the customer. And a lot of trust by, like, we would not say, like, there would be a lot of debates in our company that if we said up to 30% off, it will be like, okay, what percentage of SKUs are 30% off? Because you can't say up to 30% off and have only 10% SKU at 30% off. So these were the kind of debates that go on in the firm, where we want to stand and do the right thing for customers. And like we always say in our internal things, that when you're making any decision, assume that customer sitting at the table, and then only make that decision, so that you're not trying to not focus on consumer delight.
So being honest with the customer is important for your reputation, for your long-term sustainability, and that's a very good pillar for your long-term success. So I'm so delighted that you took this up. Tell me, how do you see, now coming to market, how do you see the beauty and fashion market in the long term? How is it growing? What do you expect in the next decade? How will the market grow?
So the numbers are that beauty industry is personal care. Beauty and personal care is talked in the same light, but beauty and personal care is about a $15 billion industry, of which only 1 billion is online. So the penetration is still very small, 7%. And it is expected to grow, because most of the big players, from L'Oreal to Unilever to Estee Lauder, they all believe in e-commerce. So they all have a commitment that about 20% of their sales will come from e-commerce over the next few years. And this number may go up now due to pandemic. Their desire may go up further. So I think with that, we clearly believe that beauty is a good category for e-commerce in the long run. Beauty industry itself is growing all over the world. Beauty and personal care is growing even in developed markets of US and Japan and China. And clearly in India, it's very high growth, like 20%, 25% growth. So it's a good industry to be in at the moment. On the fashion, in fact, the online fashion is a $5 billion industry, so bigger than beauty. And typically in general, also globally, also fashion is a bigger industry than beauty. Beauty is very brand led, fashion is more design led. So it's a little different market. We realized that we were late entrants in fashion, but when we wanted to extend from beauty to fashion, we realized that consumers had very little choice on fashion platforms in the country. Many of the early fashion platforms had closed, and there was Myntra, and of course, Amazon and Reliance, Ajio were coming into the fashion business. But we realized that there was a need for a specialist fashion retailer who focused more on style and more on trends, and that's what we are trying to be, a very differentiated fashion platform, and we are positioning our business that way. And during this pandemic, our fashion business, because it was an early stage of growth, has in fact grown 300 to 400% year on year. So it's seen a huge momentum. And I think, our playbook, we've learned the playbook through beauty, and, applying it to fashion with bringing in marketing, content, advice, art of retailing, all of that together to convert consumer in a manner that doesn't normally happen in the industry.
Great. So pandemic really helped you in some categories to grow.
Yes, of course. Even in beauty, it has grown. Yeah.
Which is great. I think you're lucky for that. So what kind of share what kind of portfolio of products and services you like to add so that your share in this beauty and fashion category can go up in the next 5 years? Are you planning adding some more products, some more segments?
Yeah, in the sense that our wireframe has stayed similar from the beginning. But if you look at it, initially our makeup and skincare category got built out. But I think we lag on hair and personal care category because it needs a little different mindset. I keep saying the playbook for high-end makeup and skincare and fragrance is very different than the playbook for personal care and hair. Hair is important part of personal care. So I think we need to do more there. And clearly there is work cut out for there. We've also had things like mom and baby and wellness category on our wireframe from the beginning of Nykka's journey since 2012. But again, these need a very full-fledged execution. And what I mean by that is, I don't know if you noticed, but we have 7 Instagram handles and all are very, very popular. And each of our Instagram handles talks to that specific customer. So the beauty Instagram handle is only talking about beauty tutorials. Fashion Instagram handle is talking about the fashion advice. And similarly, the wellness Instagram will talk about the wellness advice, which will be integrated with nutrition and also with exercise, and which is all, wellness is a holistic thing. Selling some wellness product is one thing on the platform, but to give a holistic solution is a different thing. So we'll continue to grow to satisfy all these needs of our consumers, which has been on the cards from the beginning. But I think the amount of work needed is so much that it sometimes takes time to fully roll out.
Absolutely. Moving on to a couple of other issues. One, I wanted to check with you on diversity and inclusion. What do you think of diversity and inclusion trends in India? How do you think companies, good companies, are moving it up? And what would you like to do in Naica in this aspect?
So before I answer the question traditional way, I'll just add one thing because diversity reminded me that we only talk about women. So now we have a Nykka Man website also and an app, and we clearly want men to be our customers, and that is also going well. And we are now trying to understand men. They buy very differently than women. We believe women like to buy in very specialist stores, whereas men prefer to buy more horizontal for their everyday needs. So we will appeal to men what they want. We also have a special Instagram handle for Nykka Man. So for me, diversity means when men want to work for my company and they're happy to swatch a lipstick on their hand and show it to their customers. So diversity means also for men to work in beauty and fashion industry, which we have a lot. But talking about diversity in a more traditional sense, I think from a traditional sense, I'll talk about diversity from 3 things. When actually I started my business, I thought long and hard that why there are not too many women entrepreneurs and who reach certain size and scale. And I realized that women are very afraid to bet the family silver on their own business. Somehow women have always thought in all their life that all the family silver and savings can be betted on men's little trial businesses that they want to do, and it's okay. But somehow women always feel that they are not entitled to bet the family silver into their passion or their business. And I think that has to change. I think it has to come from women wanting to not hesitate and not shy to allow family commitments to be made on their business behalf. So that's the first starting point. The second is whether it is board composition. I think Nykka has more women board members. Whether it is employee mix, I think we have almost 50-50 employee mix. But I don't judge by how many women are there in the marketing department. Maybe there's 70-80% are women. But what I feel proud of when there are more women in our tech department. So working and increasing the number of tech women in tech, and my favorite project is to teach women not just Indian art and music, Indian music and dancing, but also the same women teach them coding. And I think tomorrow the real diversity will be when women embrace everything with equal skill. They are not classified into this bucket or that, and I think they should be allowed to really choose a mix of. And then similarly for men, I think men should be similarly allowed to choose. And we have a lot of men who work in our stores also. They are makeup artists, and I think true diversity is when we don't have any mindsets.
No, I think that was very, very good diversity principles you laid out. And I love that you're diversifying into men's area also. And you know, these are messages for the future women entrepreneurs who would like to do well, who will like to experiment with themselves, their own passion, rather than just with the sons of the family. I think that's a very important shift India should have, because women entrepreneurs will be fantastic. That's my personal conviction. Not only from your success, but many other who have succeeded. So tell us at the end, what keeps you motivated? How do you maintain balance? Yes, your daughter has been your co-founder, but otherwise, how do you maintain the balance in the family? Because obviously, this has kept you very, very busy.
Yeah, so I think if I may say, what is important is that most of the entrepreneurs, what I would say to them is not to carry their worries, leave them behind every day and be able to sleep that peaceful night without worrying about their problems, because there'll always be enough. Because entrepreneurship is like a long race. I always say that choose an industry that you love for a long time, because you have nothing to really show for the first few years. It takes a long-term commitment of 8 to 10 years before you can even show something, and then obviously longer the commitment, the better. So I think it's a very long-term commitment and race, and as a result, you need to take it in your stride. And I enjoy every minute of my work. I'm really very passionate about work, and I honestly, it's not a for me. I enjoy every minute. However, I can very easily switch off in the evening and go for my. I love outdoors, so just whether I'm going for walk or trek or swimming or just chilling outdoors and watching birds is my favorite passion. So I do what pleases me. Traveling is what I love, and I think in that sense, I don't have. I mean that's what most people should not be like. If you work very hard, then if you take a break and you're not doing anything, that's also okay. You don't need to be like working 24/7. So I feel that I found it easy to have a personal balance, not just now but earlier and even now. And I think that's what you need to do. That is not a short-term race; it's a long-term marathon, and you better keep your stamina, and you better stay emotionally and mentally healthy to be able to run this long race.
So that's a very good message for young entrepreneurs. So I wanted to check, Ronak, do you have any questions from the audience? If you would like to raise it with Falguni.
And my questions are more candid, if you don't mind. So you are
Sure.
such a successful investment banker, and when you first thought of Nykka and you decided this is what I want to do, did people sort of suggest you not to do it? And more importantly, how did your children react to the idea? Second, you said that your daughter came to support you, and I can see she's here today also. I really want to understand what are the rules of engagement that you have set when it comes to working with families, especially your children.
Yeah. So I think in terms of when I wanted to start the business, uh, I think uh, I think a lot of people thought it was not a good idea to give up such a nice, lucrative job in a company like Kotak, which was anyway growing very well, and I was very well settled there and had a good job there. I was heading investment banking and institutional broking, which are great businesses, and I loved that. So I don't even want to say that I didn't love broking and investment banking. In fact, I had to give up those to do this. So it's not that I didn't like those. So it's a choice. You have to choose. And you have to choose. One thing at a time that you give your energy to. And I chose to build Naica, and today I don't have any regret. As far as the children, I have twins, a boy and a girl. And in fact, now my son has also joined the business. He joined business just 2 years ago. He was working with Morgan Stanley for 6.5 years. And then I think seeing all of us being so passionate about business, he wanted to join in too. So now he's in the business too. I think I think the rules of engagement are not necessarily only vis-a-vis my children. My children are also typical millennials, very intelligent, very good at what they do, very committed. But my rules of engagement are similar with any other young employee in my company. So I think what I learned in initial days is that age does not matter. We listen to every employee of ours and their thoughts and suggestions very seriously. We don't have preconceived notions where we discard those suggestions because they are too new in the organization. And I think our whole organization is filled with a lot of young talent, which is doing very, very important roles. And I think today also we get a lot of compliments from our team that we built a culture where everyone has a voice and everyone is heard, And I think in a lot of traditional businesses, youngsters didn't want to join because they felt that their ideas and their thoughts are not listened to.
Ronak, you
As
would like
young
to
Indians,
continue? Any other tough question
sir.
for Falguni?
Just one simple one. So, as Indians, we engage with a lot of students across the country. There are more than 30,000 students from colleges who are directly members of Young Indians. What would be your three key mantras to take that leap of faith to the youth of India?
I think in terms of education and for young, college and school students, one thing I will say is that every Indian or every student globally should also have that one, what I call as a core strength, be it accounting, be it engineering, be it, be it a core like be it economics. I think it's very important to be that expert in one core area and then top it up with a lot of general knowledge of interesting courses from here and there. I think in today's liberal education, there's a lot of tendency to fill up your cup with a lot of interesting things, which is great. But I think then sometimes the core skills are missing. So that is one big advice. The second big advice is that I've always said to the youth that work hard and do not judge your performance by the rewards you get. If you are doing, like, it's a very big philosophy of Gita that karm karo aur phal ki ichha mat rakho. And I think if you allow your rewards to determine the quality of your work or your motivation, that's a totally wrong thing to do. If you can be self-motivated and differentiate, and if you feel that your hard work and commitment is contributing to your self-learning and self-growth that will be helpful in the long run, that's a much better way to be than trying to be judged by some near-term rewards which may or may not disappoint. Because you have a long 30, 40, 50-year journey, and 1 or 2 years of disappointment should not throw you off guard in your commitment to work or interest in work. So that's the second. And the last thing what I say is that youngsters also have very strong opinions, but one needs to be a good listener. Always listen to other people's perspective and don't jump to conclusion based on your perspective. So if you really give a chance to the other person to be heard with an open mind, and finally, your own intellect will tell you what's the right thing.
Thank you so much. Over to you, Manojji. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ronak. Great questions. And Falguni, I'm so happy that these last three tips you've given to young Indians, because the quality of hard work without expectations is always very, very good. Because you will get back if you work hard, smart work, but just creating big expectations definitely troubles you. So that's a very good advice. Other advice you gave was about listening. I think that's one thing which the entire generation has to pick up, because listening is the best learning. And that's why God has given us 2 ears and 1 mouth to listen much more than speak.
Yes, totally agree.
And that's a great advice you've given. And but what I loved about today's session was that your real life examples of how you're building this brand new industry, brand new segment, very well balanced between online and offline. I think which is very, very important for the customers in India, and how you are picking up great principles, which are foundation principles for long-term success. And I think the principles of integrity, principles of hard work, principles of being honest with the customers are principles which will go a long, long way for Naica to succeed, for a I think in this coming decade will be a Nykka decade.
Thank you, Manoj, for really your kind words.
No, thanks a lot. I'm happy, and I'm sure everyone, all the young Indians, will love these tips you have given. And so Raghu, my request at the end is that this interview should be publicized far and wide to all youth of India, as many as we can reach, so that they can really pick. And Falguni, we may have some questions from CII which are coming in now. Today we don't have time, but we'll send it to you, and maybe pick up your responses and go back to those young Indians. So at the end, very, very grateful for your time today.
No, it's been a pleasure. I've enjoyed this session. Thank you.
Thank you. All the best, and thank you, Ronak, for your questions also.
Thank you, Manoj. Thank you.
It has been an amazing session, full of learning. Thank you very much. Thanks for your time, and you have walked your talk. And your session of this 1 hour is a powerful source of inspiration and a confidence booster to all the youngsters. Thank you for the Naica. Thank you, Falguni ji. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. My pleasure. Thank you, CII.
All the best, Falguni.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.